Fake news. Calling something fake has become as lame as blaming the dog for eating your homework. We hear it so often. What does this 4-letter F word really mean these days? Donald Trump popularized the phrase by accusing every media network he disagreed with as fake news. The term is used so loosely, it's unhelpful to anyone trying to understand the problem. Looking at all the different types of falsehoods that go viral, how do we know what makes sense? Our natural instinct is to correct somebody for sharing the stuff, for getting it wrong, but we soon realize it's hard to communicate a fact check without starting a fight. Hi, I'm Khalil Majid, Managing Editor and Fact Checker at Faqcheck Lab, a Malaysian fact-checking and media literacy organization building misinformation resilience and combating online falsehoods. I'll be helping you to understand fake news so that you can all talk about it constructively with the right words to address the problems faced with the F word. When we're precise with our words, they help us to understand issues better. Let's see the information landscape as our body and fake news as a disorder. We experience an illness when a disorder disrupts our physical or mental well-being. Today, the body of information is ill, especially in the online space. We have an information disorder. Let's unpack that into two broad areas: how and why. There are generally 7 ways to describe how a piece of content is fake. First Draft is a UK-based organization that has articulated this really well. A satire or a parody is made for laughs and not intended to harm. But humor isn't expressed in the same way universally, and such content has the potential to fool someone into taking it seriously. Misleading content is often the selective, incomplete, or inaccurate use of information to mislead someone. Imposter content happens when genuine sources are impersonated or misattributed. Fabricated content is false content that didn't exist and is made up with the intention to deceive. False connections happen when headlines, images, or captions don't support the actual body of an article, for example. False context? That's when genuine information is shared without proper context or background to give the full picture. And finally, manipulated content involves genuine images or information changed to trick you into thinking it's something else. Now, let's move on from method to motivation. Why did it happen? 3 broad reasons. 1. Misinformation. These are falsehoods that are unintentionally communicated and spread. It's a mistake. The person sharing it doesn't realize it's fake. They spread the content thinking they're helping their friends and family, or simply to show off what they know. 2. Disinformation. This happens when someone deliberately creates falsehoods or spreads rumors with the intention to deceive and cause harm. The motive, usually to gain influence, make money, or create mischief for the sake of it. And 3. Malinformation. That's the deliberate publication of private information. It can be true or manipulated. It's done to harm someone's reputation rather than out of public interest. People who create disinformation and malinformation need their content to go viral to achieve their goals. They rely on misinformed people who unknowingly share it widely. Their willingness to share enables the bad actors to spread false and harmful information. Now, nobody likes to be told they were fooled, that they fell for fake news and shared it. That's where fact checkers get into trouble. Our efforts backfire. And by fact checkers, I mean any of us who bother to verify the facts before telling someone, hey, that was dumb. You shared fake news. People usually share stories they feel are important. They think they're helping. And the content is convincing because disinformation actors are clever. They use emotive language to push a narrative about matters close to our hearts. They bury nuggets of information that appeal to our sense of what's right and wrong. And as we all know, the best lies are laced with half-truths. So when someone says, if you love your family, you wouldn't let them get vaccinated, people have died from it and more continue to fall ill after vaccination. It's easy to start thinking, wow, vaccination is bad, without checking if the people who died had pre-existing health conditions, without checking that those who fell ill recovered fast because they were vaccinated. As social creatures, we feel the urge to share helpful information. So we get trigger happy and start sharing such content quickly and widely with our networks. To be then told that, hey, that was dumb, you shared fake news, is embarrassing. It can be seen as an attack on someone's values, intelligence, or even self-identity. It triggers two common responses. One, people withdraw into a shell and stop engaging, which is no good because you're not helping them to understand how they got it wrong and why it's not their fault. And two, people double down on their false beliefs. They choose to focus on the bits of truth in the narrative while ignoring the facts you're trying to shove down their throats. It becomes adversarial, combative, and makes the world an even more divisive place than it already is. So if your idea of fact check is to drown someone with data, rest assured they are well capable of ignoring you for being rude and obnoxious. And it all starts with the vague and unhelpful term, fake news. Think of what we said earlier about using precise words that reflect the information disorder, like how a doctor would diagnose an illness. Empathize with what really matters to someone and why they share a story. It's a lot more constructive when you say, hey, I can see how this is really worrying and I'm worried too, but there's a problem. The headline is misleading and here's why. As best as possible, explain the falsehood by identifying the methods and motivation of the content, using those precise phrases mentioned earlier. For example, is a false connection between picture and headline? How has it been manipulated? What are the signs this might be disinformation designed to trick us? We've unpacked the unhelpful phrase, fake news. We've talked about how to communicate constructively with people sharing such content. Let's talk about how we publish content to debunk falsehoods. An effective fact-checking article needs a well-thought-out headline. It focuses on what the facts are rather than what the lie isn't. For example, this video claims to show scenes of a hospital overcrowded with COVID-19 patients. Having a headline that simply calls it fake is counterproductive. People end up remembering what the claim was rather than why it's fake. Instead, be clear what the verified information is. In this case, the video actually shows patients discharged from a quarantine center. Make sense of it for the audience right at the top. If they don't have time to go through it, all they need is a few seconds to get the facts at a glance. Fact-checking articles also tend to be text-heavy and dive into methodology and verification techniques. Unlike the stuff they debunk, these articles rarely ever go viral and reach the eyeballs that need them. There's a lot of debate over whether they're just preaching to the converted. After all, if someone falls for a lie that was designed to be emotive, how do you change their mind with an article that's supposed to be straight, credible, and frankly, quite boring? It might help to frame it this way. Fact checks are like first aid. It's not the long-term solution that stops you from getting injured again, but that doesn't mean a first aid box isn't important. In fact, it saves lives. No matter how many times or how few people use it, it has to be there. But since the first aid box is so important, why not make it more appealing so that more people are interested in it? Use a more visual medium to better communicate your stories. And if disinformation actors are using emotions to influence the public, surely the verified content should cater to the audience and be done in an interesting way as well. There's ongoing research and lots of debate in this space. I hope I've given you food for thought about how we can communicate fact-check content more effectively. I've also tried to make sense of so-called fake news by using more precise language to understand the how and why behind it. While we're far from a long-term solution to the problem of online falsehood, these are important building blocks. And if there's one thing to take away, let's agree to junk the phrase with the 4-letter F word. Don't just call something fake news. That might be the most helpful thing we can do for a start.